Welcome to the deep dive. So we've got something pretty interesting you sent over today.
Yeah. What's on the docket?
It's a free mini course called Three Keys to Seducing Any Woman, specifically Key 1, which is fear management. It's by a guy named Mike Pilinski from highstatusmale.com.
Okay, High Skies Mail. Yeah.
And get this subtitle from the author of Without Embarrassment, The Social Coward's Totally Fearless Seduction System.
Wow, okay. Social cowards. That's quite a title.
Right. So our mission today is really to unpack this first key, fear management. We want to get into Pilinski's thinking on, why this fear of rejection happens with women and what he actually suggests doing about it.
Gotcha. And it's just key 1. So this is the starting point of his system.
Exactly. First part of 3.
So what's his main angle? What jumps out first?
Well, his core idea is that this fear isn't just like regular nervousness. He argues it's way deeper.
Deeper how?
He connects it to something he calls toxic shame. And he thinks this shame gets tangled up unconsciously with the basic human need for affection.
Toxic shame. That sounds serious. So linking needing affection with feeling deeply ashamed.
Precisely. He suggests it often goes back to, early life, maybe how parents handled your needs for closeness or comfort.
Right, like if needing affection was met with disapproval or dismissal,
Yeah.
you might learn to feel ashamed of that need. That definitely resonates with some psychological theories.
Yeah, and he really digs into this toxic shame idea. He defines it as shame so strong it actually messes with your ability to connect with people romantically.
Okay.
And here's a key distinction he makes. It's not really the rejection itself that causes the intense pain.
No. What is it?
It's the feeling of being exposed as needy. That vulnerability, that perceived weakness of wanting connection, that's the trigger for the shame, according to him.
Ah, okay. So it's the exposure of the desire, not the outcome necessarily.
Exactly. Which, makes you wonder how that connection gets wired in the first place.
Yeah.
He points fingers gently towards childhood again.
Parental influence and all that.
Yeah. Ideally, he says, parents meet those emotional needs without making a kid feel bad for having them. But he believes, for a lot of guys, that didn't happen.
And those negative associations just stick around in the background, guiding behavior without you even realizing it.
Right. And this, Pilinski says, is a massive problem. Because to avoid feeling that awful shame of being seen as needy,
You avoid showing you're interested at all.
you got it. You sidestep expressing any desire. He says it pretty bluntly, calls it a single monstrous psychological handicap that, quote, takes you completely out of the game of love, romance, and seduction.
Wow. So the fear of revealing the need means you don't even play.
Pretty much. It becomes a cycle, doesn't it? Fear leads to inaction. Inaction means no connection.
And then maybe you tell yourself it's not important anyway.
Well, yeah, he actually touches on that too. He suggests some guys might even rationalize this fear.
How so?
Like they might develop a sort of superiority complex, looking down on guys who do put themselves out there as a kind of defense mechanism.
Interesting. Shielding themselves from the shame by judging others.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
But it's not all doom and gloom. He does offer some hope.
Okay, good. What's the upside?
He stresses this isn't like a permanent condition. The first step, he says, is just understanding it. Recognizing that potential link between fear of rejection and this deeper shame.
Self-awareness is the starting point.
Right. And he hints that confidence comes later once you understand attraction better, but that's for key hashtag 2, apparently.
Okay. So self-understanding first.
Mm-hmm.
Then he brings in an analogy, right?
Yeah.
Something about football.
Yeah, the NFL quarterback analogy. It's pretty central to his practical advice here.
How does that work?
Okay, so imagine a quarterback who's lost his confidence. Pilinski says this guy starts forcing the ball.
Meaning
Meaning he throws into really tight coverage, risky passes because he's not properly reading the coverages, not seeing how the defense is set up.
right, he's not assessing the situation, just throwing out of desperation maybe.
Exactly. A confident QB, Pilinski argues, looks at the field, sees who's open, then throws. Only when the odds look good.
Okay, I see the analogy. So how does that apply to approaching women?
Well, he says forcing a play, just walking up to a woman cold without reading her coverage, without looking for any signs she might be receptive.
That's like throwing into double coverage.
That's exactly his point. He argues it's not brave. It actually shows a lack of confidence, maybe desperation, and it just invites the rejection you're afraid of.
So it backfires. Instead of being bold, you seem maybe clueless or desperate.
Right. which leads him to his big piece of initial advice, what he calls one simple little change.
Okay, what is it? Lay it on us.
It's pretty direct. In all caps in the text, actually. Don't move without a clear go signal.
Go signal. Okay.
Unless you happen to be rich and or famous.
Ah, okay. Noted exception there. Important caveat.
Definitely underscores that. So what's a go signal then?
Yeah, what does he mean by that? Needs clarification.
He stresses observation. You need to, and this is his phrase, study your prey before pouncing.
Study your prey. Okay. Bit intense, but the point is observe first.
Right. He's critical of guys who use lame moves or just walk up and ask someone out with zero prior chat.
So, no random out-of-the-blue approaches.
Not unless you're in that rich and famous category. For everyone else, he says, seduction is all about talking. You need to be able to connect through conversation.
Makes sense. You can't really gauge interest or show yours effectively without talking.
Which brings up an interesting point he makes about who actually holds the cards in these early interactions.
Oh, who does he think is in charge?
Well, he sort of says that while men might traditionally make the first move, it's ultimately the woman who decides if she's interested or not. She does the choosing, in his view.
So men initiate, women select.
That seems to be his take. So the approach isn't about forcing interest. It's about seeing if you can become someone she might choose.
Okay. And because of this dynamic, how does he describe the communication in these early stages? Is it direct?
No, quite the opposite, actually. He calls it oblique communication, subtle stuff.
Oblique. Like indirect.
Exactly. He says to an outsider, it might look like nothing much is happening, but underneath there could be high sexual voltage crackling through the air.
Okay.
Both people are sort of feeling each other out, subtly signaling, protecting their egos from getting hurt.
Right, testing the waters without making big, risky declarations.
Yeah. And he explicitly contrasts this with advice you might get for, say, a failing marriage, where direct communication is key. He thinks that's completely useless, even destructive, early on in dating.
Interesting. So directness is bad at the start. Why?
His argument is that coming on too strong too soon can actually freak women out.
Frighten them.
Yeah, or at least put them on the defensive. It forces them to make a snap judgment about you without really knowing you, which can feel threatening to their self-esteem or sense of control.
And when people feel threatened, they shut down.
Bingo. Shut down, pull back, build a wall, which, he says, usually means rejection.
Okay, so if directness is out, what should someone do for those first moves, according to Pilinski? Can you recap?
Keep your interest fairly low-key initially. Approach casually. And the big one, watch her body language closely for what he calls beckoning signals.
Beckoning signals. Like what specifically? Eye contact? Smiling?
Could be, yeah. Or maybe leaning in, asking questions, making it easy for you to join a conversation. Signs of openness, basically.
So you're looking for an invitation, essentially.
That's the idea. He says the man should react to her call, her subtle cues.
And this whole approach, this is the social coward's way, he mentioned.
That's what he calls it. The benefit, he argues, is it protects your ego, makes success more likely because you're not guessing blindly, and helps build real confidence over time, not just bravado.
Right. Less rejection, more positive reinforcement. Confidence grows naturally. Makes sense. Now, you mentioned he also talks about the nice guy. That sounds like it could be controversial.
Oh, it definitely is. He takes a pretty strong stance against the typical nice guy.
What is the issue there?
He basically argues that these guys, the ones who are often friends with women but not dating them, are operating under bad advice. They've been told to treat women like they're super fragile, like delicate little soap bubbles, always tiptoeing around feelings.
And he thinks that's wrong.
He thinks it lands them squarely in the friend zone.
Okay. And he has some, let's say, bold claims about what women actually want instead.
Yeah. This is probably the most provocative part. He claims women secretly love to have their emotions pricked, poked, prodded, and kicked to the curb.
Whoa. Okay. That's a statement. Does he back that up at all, or is it just presented as fact?
In this mini-course, it's pretty much presented as his observation. He argues women want both safety and excitement, even though those can be opposites.
The classic conflict. Wanting the reliable guy, but also the thrill.
Exactly. He says women might say they want a nice guy for security, but they also crave that spark, that passion.
Which leads him to the whole nice guy versus jerk thing, I assume.
Yep. His take is that women often face this choice. The safe but boring nice guy, or the exciting but potentially bad news jerk.
And he thinks.
He makes the controversial claim that often women will choose the passion, the excitement over the safety. They might like the nice guy as a friend, he says, but they're not sexually attracted to him.
Hmm. I mean, you hear variations of that idea floating around, but framing it as women choosing the jerk over the nice guy is pretty blunt.
Very blunt. So what's his fix for the nice guy then? How does he get out of this supposed trap?
Yeah, what's the solution?
His advice is to ditch the qualities he thinks turn women off about nice guys. The goal is a balance
Balance between what?
between making her feel safe and comfortable like she might with a friend, but also keeping her aware of your sexual interest, never letting that fade completely.
Okay, how do you do that?
He suggests making your intentions known, but subtly, classily, through flirting, suggestive banter, that kind of thing. The key is she should always sense your underlying, well, mojo, as he puts it, your potential as a sexual being.
Right. Not aggressive, but not completely desexualized either.
Yeah.
Maintaining that spark.
Exactly. And he concludes this section by saying that acting with this mix of ease but retained mojo puts the man in control. It stops him from being, in Pilinski's rather harsh words, a feminized, nice guy, wimpy asshole.
Wimpy asshole. Okay, he doesn't mince words.
Not at all. He sees this balance as key to attractive masculinity in dating.
And then he points towards the next key. Key, #2.
Yeah, he teased that up. It's called knowing exactly how to act around women. Sounds like it'll go deeper into the psychology of attraction, how men and women see things differently, and specific behaviors women supposedly find irresistible.
Okay. More specific techniques, perhaps. And doesn't he also plug his main website and book?
Oh, absolutely. He directs people to highstatusmale.com and his book, Without Embarrassment.
Which is the social coward system. What's the pitch for the book?
Well, he sells it as a unique system to beat that toxic shame and project dominant male attitudes. He makes some pretty big claims, like using psychological techniques to compel women to respond decisively, triggering subconscious mating triggers.
Mating triggers. That sounds almost manipulative, or at least very deterministic.
Yeah, the language is strong. He claims it leads to reactions that are predictable for the man and, get this, uncontrollable for the woman.
Uncontrollable reaction.
All right.
That definitely requires a critical lens when evaluating. Human attraction is rarely that simple or controllable.
Agreed. He also suggests it helps you make up for lost time, dating-wise, and offers a money-back guarantee.
Standard marketing, perhaps, but the claims about control and triggers are definitely worth questioning.
No doubt. Well, this has certainly been a dive into key #1. It's quite a perspective he offers.
It really is. Thanks for walking us through Pilinski's initial arguments on fear and shame.
Thanks for helping unpack it. And thanks to you, our listener, for sending this our way. Pilinski definitely has a specific, maybe even jarring take on things.
Yeah, the main thrust of this first part seems to be fear of rejection, toxic shame about neediness, and his first step solution. Observe before acting, use indirect communication.
So for you listening, maybe mull this over. Does that toxic shame idea ring any bells for you? What do you think about reading coverages in social situations?
And Pilinski's whole take on the nice guy, is that something you've seen, thought about, or experienced yourself? Does his explanation resonate, or does it feel off?
Could be useful to just think about your own habits. Do you notice yourself using that oblique communication he talks about? Or seeing it in others?
And hey, if you found this interesting, maybe we can tackle key #2 and key #3 down the line, especially if you have other sources or viewpoints you want us to compare it with. Context is always good.
Definitely. Let us know. But for now, that's our deep dive into Pilinski's key #1.